Now, to stand against the motion, beware the dragon, a booming China spells trouble for America, I call upon Stapleton Roy.
Good evening. Let me begin with a dangerous confession. I love Fu Manchu novels. I've read them all. I've seen every movie version that I can get my hands on. Nothing sends shudders up my spine so much as contemplating sinister Chinese scheming to control the world. So when I was confronted with the question of whether a booming China spells trouble for the United States, my natural instinct was to think of Fu Manchu and to give a resounding yes. But then I remembered that I majored in history in college, not in the world's great literature. When you look at what's happening in China in terms of history, and not in terms of fantasy fiction, you're forced to a very different conclusion. I grew up in wartime China. I was in China as a high school student at the time of the Communist Revolution in 1949. I visited China 3 times during the turmoil of the Cultural Revolution. When I visit China now, the situation is so different and so much better than China was in those days. Nevertheless, the question before you is a serious one. Any country of 1.3 billion people can spell trouble, for us or for the global system. I have dealt with China professionally for over 30 years. It has been troublesome throughout that period. Our relations have improved. We have done well. But this is true that China can cause trouble, whether it's in boom or bust. A China that is floundering with a sense of grievance against the world and disaffected with the international system would be a greater danger than a booming China that can feed and clothe its people, educate them domestically and abroad, buy vast amounts of US goods and services, and benefit from the international system. That's a far preferable outcome. Can we handle China's troublesome aspects? Of course we can. We're the world's premier military power. We have the largest and most productive economy in the world. We're improving our military technology at a rate faster than China is. We have the world's, I mentioned the economy. We're a global leader in science and technology. Our schools and graduate schools are the envy of the world. The one requirement for handling any trouble that China causes is that we manage our domestic and international affairs so that we don't squander the enormous advantages that we have. Remember, trouble for us spells even bigger trouble for China. The advantage is on our side, not China's. 7 successive US presidents over a space of 35 years have discovered that containing troubles and developing common interests with China benefits us. 3 successive generations of Chinese leaders have come to the same conclusion. Such a track record should give us confidence. What's more, experience over the last 15 years of China's rapid growth shows clearly that a booming China offers enormous opportunities for the United States and holds out the prospect of positive change in the future. China's rapid growth has created an enormous middle class concentrated in China's coastal provinces. This new middle class enjoys a level of affluence unthinkable in the 1970s. These middle class Chinese are educated, entrepreneurial, and outward-looking. They have more in common with the middle classes elsewhere in Asia than they have with the backward parts of their own country. They represent the building blocks for China's eventual transition to a more representative form of government. China's society is remarkably more open than it was before. Hundreds of thousands of China's best and brightest have been sent to the West and primarily to the United States to study, to work, and to spend years here. Western educated Chinese now occupy significant positions at all levels of government, business, and education in China, totally absent 30 years ago. In essence, China has abandoned Marxism-Leninism and class struggle in favor of market economics and promotion of a harmonious society. Obviously, as China's economy continues to grow and as its military capabilities improve, we have to consider the possibility that a more powerful and prosperous China will become a security threat. A highly nationalistic China, under poor leaders or under bad leaders, would pose serious problems for us and for the global community. Two aspects are of particular concern. China's military spending has been growing at double-digit rates for the last 15 years. China's defense forces are preparing for Taiwan scenarios that include the possibility of U.S. intervention. Does this mean we should sound the alarms and assume that conflict with China is inevitable over Taiwan? The answer is no. The situation calls for vigilance, not for alarm. U.S. military leaders are not sitting on their thumbs. They are constantly improving our force posture. They are quietly confident that we can handle any challenges, and they believe that conflict can be avoided. Such confidence is warranted. We in China have developed an effective framework for managing the Taiwan issue. Both countries, the United States and China, have stated that they are opposed to unilateral changes in the status quo with respect to Taiwan. In addition, enormous common interests have developed on both sides of the Taiwan Strait, interests missing before we befriended China. Taiwan has poured over $100 billion of investment into the mainland. Millions of Taiwanese visit the mainland. Taiwan exports more across the Taiwan Straits now than it does to the United States. In the meantime, Taiwan runs its own affairs, it elects its own presidents, and it benefits from membership in the World Trade Organization and in the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum. In per capita GDP terms, Taiwan ranks just behind the European Union and ahead of countries such as Spain, New Zealand, and South Korea. It would require ineptitude on a massive scale in Beijing, Washington, and Taipei for this situation to generate into a military conflict. To conclude, an alarmist view of China exaggerates the dangers and obscures the opportunities. China's economy is now 10 times larger than it was in 1978, and our relations with China are better. And China has significant defense liabilities. Its most modern advanced military equipment comes from Russia, an unreliable source. After years of rapid growth, China now, in defense spending, China now spends approximately the same percentage of GDP that we do, but its GDP is much smaller than ours. Its defense budget is less than half of the combined defense budgets of the UK, France, Germany, and Italy, all part of the European Union with a common defense policy. My experience in Asia has made me an optimist. I lived in Taiwan under an authoritarian regime. It's now a thriving democracy. I lived in Thailand twice under military-dominated governments, only to see it move to, for a period, to thriving parliamentary democracy. I was in Indonesia when an authoritarian
Roy, I'm afraid I'm going to have to stop you there.
Gave way. To sum up, the troubles produced by China booming are manageable, the opportunities are encouraging, the outlook is hopeful, if we display the traditional qualities that made us a great country.
And the speech is coming to a close.
Dragons are mythological.
Thank you very much.